Ever wondered how a vast land of diverse cultures and geographies came together to form the United States of America? How did this sprawling nation, stitched together from a patchwork of disparate colonies, find unity? What trials and triumphs marked the journey from fragmented settlements to a united republic? The answers lie in a tale as vast and varied as the country itself, a tale of ambition, conflict, innovation, and resilience. Stay tuned as we journey back in time to explore the fascinating story of America's formation. The story of America begins in the early 17th century with the establishment of the English colonies. Our journey takes us back to a time when the New World was still largely unexplored by Europeans, a land of vast forests, rolling plains, and towering mountains, inhabited by a diverse multitude of indigenous peoples. The English, seeking wealth and opportunity, began establishing colonies along the eastern seaboard. Jamestown, founded in 1607 in what is now Virginia, was the first permanent English settlement. Life in Jamestown was harsh and fraught with peril. The settlers struggled to find food and build shelter, and their relations with the local Powhatan Confederacy were tense and often violent. Yet they persevered, driven by the dream of prosperity in this new land. A little over a decade later, another group of English settlers landed on the shores of New England. These were the Pilgrims of Plymouth, devout separatists seeking religious freedom. Their first winter was brutal, with over half of the colonists succumbing to the harsh conditions. However, with the assistance of the Wampanoag people, particularly a man named Squanto, the survivors learned to cultivate the land, leading to a bountiful harvest the following year that we now commemorate as the first Thanksgiving. The early colonies were a mix of successes and failures. The settlers faced numerous challenges, from harsh winters and disease to conflicts with native tribes. Yet, they also experienced moments of triumph, as they established new communities, forged alliances, and adapted to life in the new world. Their resilience and determination laid the foundation for the society that was to come. These early colonies, as disparate and disjointed as they may have been, were the seeds from which the United States of America would eventually grow. They were the first steps in a long, complex journey towards nationhood. These early colonies set the stage for the birth of a new nation, but a lot more was yet to unfold. Conflict was not far behind in the New World, with the French and Indian War marking a turning point in colonial America. This war, which raged from 1754 to 1763, was a battle for control over the vast and bountiful North American lands. At its heart were two European powers, Britain and France, each allied with various Native American tribes. The war began primarily due to territorial disputes between the British colonies and New France. Both sides desired the rich fur trade and the fertile farming lands of the Ohio Valley. As tensions escalated, so did the battles, culminating in a full-blown war that spread across the continent. The British, aided by their colonial subjects and some Native American allies, eventually emerged victorious. However, the war came at a high cost. Britain found itself in significant debt, a burden they sought to alleviate by imposing new taxes on the American colonies. This decision was met with great discontent among the colonists, who felt unfairly targeted. The French and Indian War, therefore, not only redrew the boundaries of the New World, but also sowed the seeds of discontent among the American colonies. The war exposed the colonists to the harsh realities of British rule, sparking a desire for independence that would bubble under the surface for the next decade. The war set the stage for a revolution that would change the course of history. The American Revolution, a revolutionary war that would lead to the birth of a new nation. Our story now takes us to the mid-18th century. Tensions were mounting between the 13 American colonies and the British government. The colonies were chafing under Britain's rule, taxed heavily without any say in the matter. This was the spark that ignited the American Revolution, a conflict that was more than just a rebellion against British rule. It was a struggle for freedom, for the right to govern themselves. The Revolution was a complex, multifaceted event marked by key occurrences like the Boston Tea Party in 1773, where colonists protested the Tea Act by dumping chests of tea into Boston Harbor. This act of defiance, among others, stirred the pot of revolution, leading to the First Continental Congress in the following year, where the colonies decided to unite against British rule. But it wasn't just events that shaped this revolution, it was people too. Figures like George Washington, the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army, and Thomas Jefferson, the primary author of the Declaration of Independence, played significant roles. They were the minds and hearts driving the revolution, their actions and words inspiring their fellow colonists to fight for their freedom. Speaking of the Declaration of Independence, this document, ratified on July 4, 1776, was a profound manifestation of the colonists' desire for freedom. It declared that the 13 American colonies were free and independent states, no longer under British rule. This was a bold move, a clear statement to the world that the colonies were ready to stand on their own, to govern themselves. The war raged on until 1783 with the signing of the Treaty of Paris, which marked the end of the war and recognized the sovereignty of the United States over the territory east of the Mississippi River. With the victory of the American colonies, the United States of America was born. This was more than just the birth of a new nation. It was the birth of a new ideal, a new way of life, centered around the principles of liberty, equality, and self-governance. A new nation needed a new government, and so came the Constitution and the federal system. In the wake of the American Revolution, the young nation found itself in need of a robust system of governance. The solution? The United States Constitution, a remarkable document drafted in 1787 by a group of visionaries known as the Founding Fathers. This document, a brilliant fusion of ideas, enshrined principles of liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness, setting the stage for a new kind of nation. Yet, the Constitution was more than a proclamation of ideals. It was a blueprint for a unique form of government, a federal system that balanced power between a central authority and individual states. The Founding Fathers were cautious of a central power that could grow too strong, as they had seen with British rule. So, they devised a system where states retained significant powers, while a central federal government handled matters of national concern. This balancing act between state and federal authorities, known as federalism, was a revolutionary concept. It allowed for a dynamic relationship between different levels of government, each with its distinct responsibilities, yet all working together in a harmonious whole. More so, it allowed for a degree of flexibility and adaptability that has helped the United States navigate through centuries of change. And then came the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. These were not an afterthought but a necessary addition to protect the fundamental rights of the citizens. They safeguarded freedoms like speech, religion, and the right to a fair trial, further cementing the Constitution's role as a beacon of liberty. The Constitution, the federal system, and the Bill of Rights collectively laid the foundation for the United States as we know it today. They created a resilient framework that has withstood the test of time, ensuring that the flame of liberty continues to burn brightly, guiding the nation on its journey through history. The Constitution laid the foundation for the United States as we know it today. The young nation faced both growth and division, leading to the Civil War. As the United States began to stretch its arms, the march towards the West was inevitable. This westward expansion, often referred to as the Manifest Destiny, was a belief that the United States was destined to spread across the entire North American continent. However, as the nation grew in size, so too did its divisions. The issue of slavery, long a contentious point, became an open wound that could no longer be ignored. It was a moral and ethical divide, a chasm between the North and South. The industrialized North, where slavery was largely abolished, clashed with the agrarian South, where the economy was deeply entwined with slave labor. The stage was set for a conflict of monumental proportions. And so, the Civil War erupted in 1861, a brutal and bloody struggle that would last 4 long years. It was a war not fought on distant shores, but on home soil, pitting brother against brother, friend against friend. It was a war that would determine the very soul of the nation. In the midst of this turmoil, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. This landmark document declared that all slaves in Confederate-held territory were to be set free. While the proclamation didn't immediately end slavery, it changed the fundamental character of the war. The fight was no longer just about preserving the Union, but also about human freedom. The Civil War took a devastating toll, but it also led to the abolition of slavery and a redefinition of the United States as one nation, not a collection of states. It was a war that tested the resilience of the American people and the ideals they held dear. The Civil War marked a turning point in American history, shaping the nation's future. It was a time of great strife but also of profound change. It was the crucible in which the modern United States was forged, a testament to the enduring spirit of a nation.